Hi Stitchy friends, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. My name is Kenzie from Mudpuppy Stitchery. I am a cross-stitch designer, I am a bird nerd and a wildlife lover, and I enjoy doing all of the crafty things. So if you're new, welcome. I hope that you like what you see, and I hope that you'll continue to follow up with me on all of my future videos. And for my current subscribers, thank you so very much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. It is great to finally be back, especially since my last update video was before Christmas. And my 2-week trip to Australia in January was absolutely amazing and definitely a whirlwind of activities. And at the end of this video, I'll chat a little bit more about what happened on the trip and how it went, and so that if you're not interested in that, you can move on to the next Flosstube video. But just to give a little bit of background information for those of you who are new, I have a really strong connection to Australia because in college I studied biology, and for my senior capstone research project I worked with an Australian PhD student who was writing their paper on Mississippi River ecology. I live in Minnesota, and so we are right on the edge of the Mississippi River. So me and other students were able to help gather water quality data, collect bug samples, do some boat electrofishing, which was amazing, and of course do lots of the follow-up lab work. And I became best friends with the PhD student and have been able to visit her and her family in Australia 3 separate times, and each time has been absolutely spectacular. Now, what made this trip really special was that my younger sister was able to come along on the trip and experience all of the amazing things that I've experienced in the past, and to see her experience it for the first time was just incredible. So again, at the end of the video, I'll talk a little bit more about the trip, but for now, I've been getting back into the routine at work and catching up on all of the WIP parades I missed while I was away. Now, I really don't like January and February because it is so cold and winter just drags on. But I do love this time of the year for all of the WIP parades and the planning videos that people put out. So it is so much fun to see what everybody has in their stash and their plans for 2025. So now it is my turn to film my beginning of the year WIP parade, and I'm really excited to share with you what is in my big stitching storage container. I currently have 10 WIPs, which in the grand scheme of things is not too bad. So I'll definitely be starting a few new things here soon in the coming months. But without further ado, let's get started and move right into my 2025 WIP parade. My first WIP is one that I designed a couple of years ago, and I think this was my second cross-stitch piece that I ever designed, and it's called the Australian Sampler. So now that you know a little bit of background about me, and you can understand why I was so inspired to create a piece that represented my experiences. And this is actually the first piece of my own work that I've started stitching, which seems crazy, but I only started stitching this in August of this year. So this is being stitched on a beautiful piece of muted Sedona by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics, and the colors of this piece just glow on this fabric. This fabric ended up being the perfect color because it reminds me of the reddish orange sands in the outback, and I just love it. I really wanted to include as many animals as possible in the design, and I was able to squeeze in a koala, a red-bellied black snake, we've got a kookaburra, a Christmas beetle, got kangaroos of course, a blue-faced honeyeater, some sort of butterfly that I can't remember the name of, and the Waratah flower. And I was also really inspired by Aboriginal art and the beautiful bright colors and striking patterns that are used in it. So I really had fun designing the borders for this piece. But as you can see, I've only got a little bit done so far. I've been working on the koala and his picture frame, and that has been a blast to work on. I think he's turning out so cute. I think my strategy will be to continue working on the borders and swapping it out with the middle portion, just because I don't want to get bogged down by the border stitching. But I am loving the bright colors, and I've been really enjoying working on this piece. But this is also available in my Etsy shop if you're interested in purchasing a PDF copy of this design. My WIP number 2, and this is in no particular order, is October 31st by Cottage Garden Samplings. And this is being stitched on an 18 count cornflower by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics. And this was started October 3rd of 2023, so it is one of my older WIPs. And this was part of a stitch along with Lori of Mischievous Stitches back in 2023, and neither of us have finished it yet, but we're getting there. So I'll have to check in with Lori to see how hers is going, but this is definitely on my list of pieces that needs to be finished this year, and I'm pretty close. I was also able to complete the pumpkin, and that was definitely a beast to stitch, but I love how it turned out. And I've been thinking of ways I can fully finish this piece, and I'm thinking of attaching it to one of those decorative charcuterie boards that you can find at Hobby Lobby, but I'm not 100% sure on that yet. And instead of stitching the October 31st, I am going to be putting the year that this is finished, so hopefully 2025, because I want to keep this out all year long instead of just out seasonally. But this has been a really fun stitch, and it looks gorgeous on this fabric, and I am super eager to get this completed soon. WIP number 3 is a really fun one that people seem to really enjoy, and it is called Pileated and Birch by Chickadee Needleworks on Etsy. And I don't have a cover page for this piece, so I'm just going to hold the pattern far away so you can get the general idea. But this is what it looks like. It was started on February 4th of last year and is being stitched on an 18 count dusk by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics. And it is looking so good on this beautiful dark fabric, and the design looks so striking against it. The really nice thing about this piece is that there is a lot of fill-in, and so it's a good one to work on if I really just need to zone out and not think about anything. I also really like that it's a long, skinny stitch, because it's nice to have different design shapes to display on your wall to help mix it up. The only thing that is kind of intimidating is that there is a lot of white back stitches to help define the wings and the tail, and they're very angular, and so it's going to be pretty obvious if you don't get them straight. But it should be fine. I should be able to figure it out. But I think the back stitch will really help to define the piece, and so I'll just have to be careful stitching it. If you've watched any of my previous floss tubes, you'll know that I absolutely love pileated woodpeckers, and woodpeckers in general. They are just the coolest, weirdest birds, and I absolutely love them. So this is a really fun piece for me, and I'm excited to get back to it. WIP number 4 is also a favorite, and that is Birds of a Feather Circle Together by Mama Loves You GB here on Flosstube and on Etsy. And this is being stitched on an 18 count Valor by Picture This Plus Fabrics, which I absolutely love. So this was started on October 19th of last year, and I am doing a stitch along with Kim, the Contented Needleworker here on Flosstube. And you'll notice that mine looks a lot different than the cover page. And that is because I decided to change the birds to native North American birds. And so far I have the barn swallow, the American goldfinch, the eastern bluebird, and the purple martin. The last two will be the red-bellied woodpecker and the ruby-throated grosbeak. So this piece has been really fun, but challenging as well, because I'm not only adapting the colors of the birds, but also adjusting the beak and the wing and the tail shapes as well. It's got to be accurate or otherwise it's going to irritate me. And because I've been enjoying this fabric so much, I ordered a large piece of it to use on an upcoming restart of a modern folk embroidery piece. And I was finally able to make a decision on the fabric and the floss for that. So if you've been with me for a long time, then you'll know the fiasco I had trying to fix my poor choices for fabric and floss. So that will most likely be an upcoming start in the next video. But back to this particular piece, I do have a recommendation if you're interested in stitching this. I would recommend stitching the leaves in one variegated floss instead of the charted 2 flosses, just to make it faster and easier. And I've been doing that with Weeks Dye Works collards, and it's been working really well, and I think it looks really good. So I've been really enjoying this piece, and this is another one that needs to be finished this year because it's small and I have no excuse not to get it done and on my wall. WIP number 5 is called Whale Fields by Mama Witch X Stitch on Etsy, and it was started on January 17th of last year. So this is being stitched on an 18 count pistachio by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics, and which is another gorgeous bluey green fabric, and I have a whole bunch of it so I can use it on other projects. But this is a really fun underwater piece, and the colors are just super striking together with the red and the oranges against the blues. I was also able to stitch all the way down to the whale's head just because I wanted to see how big he was going to be, and now I should be able to cut my fabric. The only thing I'm not 100% happy with is that the colors shown on the cover page look more of like a dull greenish blue, and I really love that deep sea look. And the colors are actually a bit brighter than my cover page, and I think they look pretty good. I was just expecting different colors. But Whale Fields has been a really fun one to work on, and it's super different than any of my other WIPs. I'm definitely not an ocean or beach girl, but whales are so cool that I could not pass this stitch up. Before I hop into more of my cross-stitching WIPs, I'd like to move on to another segment called Wildlife Minute, where I give a little talk on wildlife, biology, animals, or anything that strikes my fancy. So hopefully you'll learn something new today, and it will encourage you to take a deeper dive in the wonders of the natural world. But if you're only here for the stitchy things, feel free to hop to this time point. Hi there, Wildlife Kenzie here. Today I'd like to talk to you about a very special bird, and that is the eastern screech owl. Eastern screech owls are found, and you might have guessed, around the eastern to Midwest portion of the US, expanding a little bit into Canada and Mexico. And these incredible little critters are one of the smaller species of raptors, being about the size of an American robin. They may be small, but they have quite a big voice, and they will make a lot of noise around dusk and into the evening when they are awake. These birds are called crepuscular, meaning that they are awake during the dusk and into the early morning. There are actually 3 different color morphs of the eastern screech owl, including the gray, the brown, and the red. And the red morph accounts for about 1/3 of the population. And these little owls will eat almost anything, including mice, frogs, insects, worms, basically whatever meat that they can catch. And one way to know whether an owl has been around during the day is to look down at the ground and to see if you can find any pellets. So pellets are bits of fur and feathers and bones that the owl coughs back up because they aren't able to digest and break down the bones and the keratin. Looking through owl pellets is a great activity for kids, especially because you can find an entire mouse skeleton within the pellet, and you can figure out exactly what the owl ate that day. In contrast, eagles will have a much stronger stomach acid than other raptors, and so when they cough up pellets, you will only find find fur and feathers because the bones have been dissolved. So eagle pellets are boring to look through compared to owl pellets. And owls are considered raptors because of their incredible eyesight, their killing talons, and their hooked, sharp beak meant for ripping apart prey. And what distinguishes owls from other raptors is their incredible hearing. Owls don't have ears like us, and the tufts on the top of their head are not their ears. They just have holes on the side of their head that are covered by feathers, but they're not symmetrical like ours. Their ears are lopsided, with one ear up here towards the front and the other down and further back. And this allows owls to have 360 degrees range of hearing, especially when they can turn their head around completely backwards because of their extra neck vertebrae. And some species of owls' hearing is so great that they can hear mice under a foot of snow. So you've probably also heard that when an owl flies, it is completely silent, and that is absolutely true. If their main way of finding prey is through their hearing, then they have to have completely silent wing beats in order to keep hearing their prey so that they can catch it. And eastern screech owls are just incredible little critters, and I really hope you enjoyed learning about them today during today's Wildlife Minute. Now, back to the stitching. Hi, welcome back. So WIP number 6 is a fun little freebie called I Stitch by Teresa Kogut, and I'll make sure to link it down below if you'd like to stitch this too. So this is being stitched on an 18 count Oaken by Picture This Plus Fabrics, and it was started on December 10th of 2024. So I'm actually relatively close to a finish on this one. I just need to complete the skirt design, and there's like a little heart over here and a tomato pincushion. And I think the little red-winged blackbird that's hanging out in the hoop is just adorable. But I ended up choosing my own colors for this piece, and I'm really loving how they pop off this fabric. I actually had a couple Weeks Dye Works variegated flosses in my stash, and I was interested in using those, so I thought that would be perfect for her skirt. The bulk of the skirt is being stitched in holly, and the stars are being stitched in bayberry, and I just love how it looks. And as far as finishing this one, I'm not entirely sure yet, and we'll need to do some brainstorming to figure out a creative finish for it. I also wanted to show you my project bag that I'm keeping it in. So I was lucky enough to win a giveaway, and I got to choose a bag from an Etsy shop called Simply Stitched. And I, of course, had to choose the one with the butterflies on it. It is just so cute and super well made, so I was really impressed. So I definitely recommend taking a look at Simply Stitched on Etsy, who I'll make sure to link down below as well. So if you're interested in some new project bags, definitely take a look at these. The next WIP is number 7, and that is Jane Atkinson, circa 1780, by the Scarlet Letter. And it is being stitched on a giant piece of vellum from Picture This Plus Fabrics. And this was started on Easter of 2024. I absolutely love this piece, and this will definitely be a focus piece in 2025. It's absolutely massive at 290 by 460 stitches, and it's definitely the biggest in my WIP collection so far, but I just love it. The colors are so warm and comforting to work with, and they look especially good on this peachy pinky tan fabric. I'm also going to be changing quite a bit of the pattern, mainly changing the verse to song lyrics from the Prince of Egypt that really speak to me. And I'm also going to be changing the Adam and Eve to more animals. So probably adding in like a kangaroo, maybe an emu, and definitely a Mudpuppy in there somewhere. So Heidi from the Stitching Fae is working on this piece, and I think she is stitching it exactly as is, and it is turning out absolutely gorgeous. I was extremely inspired by her to start this piece last year, and I'm so glad that I did. But yeah, very excited to pull this one back out. WIP number 8 is one of my oldest WIPs, and it was started in March of 2023. And this is Luna Moth 2 by Happy Little Mouse on Etsy. And it is being stitched on an 18 count navy Aida. Now, I really just need to focus on this piece and get it done already, especially because it's not that big. So initially I was having some issues stitching on this dark fabric, but really good lighting has helped, and I think I just got used to working on it after a while. But the colors just glow on this fabric, and I absolutely love how it's turning out. You can see I'm missing a color here towards the top of the wings, so I need to run out and get that missing DMC. In the past, some people have asked questions as to why I add extra fabric along the edges of my Aida. And this was an incredible trick that I learned from the Contented Needleworker Kim a while ago. So you can save more of your cross-stitch fabric by adding the scrap fabric to the edges, enough so that your hoop has something to grab onto, but your design can go closer to the edge. So I was really good about doing this a couple years ago, but I have not been doing that lately for some reason, and so I need to pull out my sewing machine and get back on that. WIP number 9 is called Red-Bellied Whistling Ducks by Lindy Stitches, and it is being stitched on an 18 count Silver Fox by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics. And this was started September 28th of 2024. And this chart is a part of a series called the Bird Crush Bird Club, and there are around 10 other patterns that are similar to it that feature an amazing bird. And this was a really cool club because each stitch came with a fancy floss, came with stickers and a little postcard with facts about the bird on it. So I was very generously gifted this entire series by a wonderful, amazing stitchy friend. So I'm super thankful to have the entire series, and so this was the first one that I started stitching on. I think it's turning out super cute, and the Threadworks variegated floss is looking amazing on this blue fabric. It's such a fun little piece, and I could definitely finish this off relatively quickly if I just focused on it. And that seems to be a common theme with me and my smaller pieces, because for most of them I'm at least at the 50% mark and could get quite a few finishes if I just focused on my littles. But again, we shall see. I love all of my WIPs, so sometimes it's hard to decide on what to focus on. My 10th and last WIP is another favorite of mine, and it is called Moggy Manor by the Blue Flower. And it's being stitched on an 18 count Old Gold by My Vintage Needle Arts on Etsy, and was started in April of 2023. So it is definitely one of my older projects. And this is another one that I'm really going to be working hard on this year to try and get it finished, because I absolutely love how it's turning out, and I'm actually personalizing it quite a bit. So this is going to be a piece that honors the dogs in my life that have passed away. So I'm changing all of the cats in this piece to dogs, and I'm going to be adding in their names instead of the quote in the center. It's going to be a beautiful memorial piece, and it's looking absolutely amazing on this yellow fabric. I am really, really happy with how that's turning out. And because I'm doing so much personalization, I'm basically choosing my own colors, and I specifically changed the house to a big greenhouse. And because I used to live in a big greenhouse, and I changed the bottom to say, "All dogs go to heaven." So it's very personal to me and my life, and I think it's going to be gorgeous once it's finished. And that is my last WIP. So that is my 2025 WIP parade complete, and I am so excited to start the year with 10 amazing WIPs that I am eager to put some more work into, and lots of new starts. I am definitely eager for some new starts. But I did want to talk about a few other things, including a finish that I don't think I've shown yet, some haul, and a lovely gift that I received in the mail. So let's start out with my finish, and actually this is my first finish of 2025, so hopefully one of many. This piece is called American Kestrel, and it was designed by Chickadee Needleworks on Etsy. And it was stitched on an 18 count silver fox by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics, and was finished beginning of January. As many of you know, I absolutely love kestrels and was lucky enough to work with a permanently injured one back when I was working at a wildlife education center. They are extremely small falcons, and they'll eat anything from bugs to mice to frogs. So you'll notice here that both the male and the female are featured in the design, with the female having the more brassy orange wings and back. I just love how bold and graphic the design is, and it really makes it a statement piece. And I did not end up stitching the background because I didn't think that it needed it, and I wasn't really looking forward to stitching it, so I skipped it. And I think it turned out just fine. I'm not sure how I'm going to fully finish this piece, but hopefully by the next video I will have it completed so that I can show you what I did. But yeah, I think it turned out really nice, and I am so glad to have this piece stitched. I've purchased a little bit of haul that I wanted to show with you guys, and I picked up a couple gorgeous fabrics along with a couple charts. And buying fabric is one of my absolute favorite types of purchasing for cross-stitch supplies, followed shortly by charts. It's so much fun to build up a small collection in your stash. So these 4 fabrics are ones that I bought a while ago and that I did show on Instagram, but not on Flosstube yet. So the first fabric is called Pickled by Picture This Plus, and it's this really nice dill green. I really like this one. And then you can compare it to Jalapeno by Fiber on a Whim Fabrics, which is a bright yellowy green. And you can really see a contrast between these two types of greens. Now, I do have a chart picked out for Jalapeno already, which I'll show a little bit later. But the next 2 things that I bought are quite similar. The first one is Chabliss by Picture This Plus, and the second one is Harmony, also by Picture This Plus. And you can definitely see they are within the same color tone, but Harmony is about 1 or 2 shades darker than the Chabliss. So they are both really beautiful, and both will be super useful in my stash. So I am so happy to have all 4 of these in my collection. Another really cool thing that happened was that I won another giveaway from a Flosstube friend of mine, Denise from Black Ribbon Stitch Studios. And I won this amazing chart called the Bee Queen, and I am so excited to get a start on this soon. So if you've been here for a little bit, then you know that I absolutely love bees, and so this chart is just awesome, and it would be perfect for a bee wall. So I was thinking that Queen Bee would look absolutely fabulous on Jalapeno, and the whites of the flowers would really stand out on this fabric. So what do you guys think? The only thing I'm concerned about would be to make sure that the yellows in this pattern don't blend too much into Jalapeno, because it is more of like a yellowy green fabric. So I'll have to bring along a fabric sample into the store when I pick out the floss colors, just to double check that everything looks okay. But I think this is going to be amazing, and you should definitely be seeing a new start pretty soon. In that same 1, 2, 3 stitch order, I also ordered 2 new charts. So the first one is Brown Fish Owl by Kathy Barrick, and the other one is Come to the Garden by Teresa Kogut. So I have loved both of these charts for a while now, and they have been on my list to pick up. They are just so fun. So for the Brown Fish Owl, I'll probably just stitch the owl portion and skip the alphabet part. I don't think it necessarily needs it to have the design feel complete, but absolutely love this one. And Come to the Garden is just so pretty with the little cherub and the butterflies and the flowers. I just love it. And the border does look very intense on this one, but it is absolutely gorgeous. And I think it really sets the piece apart. So I have no plans to start either of these anytime soon. It's just nice to have them in my collection for when I'm ready to get a start on them. And my last piece of haul is an absolutely amazing gift from a wonderful stitchy friend. And she sent over Big Folk Flower by Teresa Kogut and sent it with the nicest letter. So this was so thoughtful and so kind of her. And I really appreciated this wonderful gift. So thank you so much, friend. And it even comes with a matching needle minder. So how cool is that? I really love the beautiful folk art design, and the colors are just warm and amazing and just beautiful. I probably won't stitch the wavy border, but I don't think it needs it to look like a completed design. But I just love it, and I'm so thankful for this wonderful surprise that I received in the mail. Alright, stitchy friends, that is about all that I have for you today. So I am going to talk a little bit more about my Australia trip now. So if you're not interested, thank you so much for watching my WIP parade, and I hope you'll come back and visit my channel again. For those of you who stayed, I'll just give a quick overview of what happened on my trip, and I encourage you to watch my last video. It's only about 8 minutes long, and it's basically a video journal of my experiences on the trip, and I think it turned out really nicely. So definitely go and watch that. So my sister and I set out on our trip on January 9th, and we arrived in Sydney on January 11th. And we flew from Minneapolis to Los Angeles, which was about 4 hours, and then from Los Angeles to Sydney, which was about 14 hours. And we were a little bit nervous about flying into LAX because of the fires, and we weren't sure if they would affect our flights at all. But luckily they didn't, and we didn't see any smoke or anything burning, so that was good. And then we Ubered to our hotel in downtown Sydney, and after recovering from the super long flights, we did a lot of walking and looking at all of the sites. We walked around Hyde Park, which was right next door to our hotel, and then we walked near the Sydney Harbor, and we walked to the Sydney Opera House, where I sat on the steps and ate some delicious gelato. And we also ended up taking a boat tour around the harbor, which was amazing. And then after Sydney, we took a train to a smaller town about 4 hours away, where we met up with my friends and stayed with my friend's family for a couple of days. And then we took a day trip to Canberra, which is like the Washington, D.C. of Australia. And we did a lot of walking there around downtown, and was even able to take a look at the National Australian Museum for about an hour or so. After a couple really fun days together, we said goodbye to our friend's family and traveled together up north through Armidale, which is about an 8-hour drive. So it was a lot of driving and a lot of car time, but luckily my friends were gracious enough to be the drivers so that we didn't have to worry about driving on the left side of the road. So I'm so thankful that they were willing to do that for us, and I'm so lucky to have such incredible friends. After a couple days of relaxing, we then drove another 2.5 hours north to Ballindine, Queensland, where we spent the next couple days going to wineries in the region and doing some really great hiking in the area. After that was our last stop, another 2.5 hour drive north to the Sunshine Coast, where we met up with more of my friend's family. And there we went to the beach, we went to the Australia Zoo, which is Steve Irwin Zoo, and we were able to pet giraffes, a koala, kangaroos, a really big snake, and a tortoise, and it was so cool. And then after that, it was time to head home on January 23rd. It was definitely a whirlwind 2-week trip, but it was absolutely incredible and something I will never forget. I unfortunately didn't get much stitching done in those 2 weeks, but I did bring along my Australia sampler and I was able to put in a strand or two. Once I get a finish on that design, I'm going to put 2025 and my sister's and my initials on the design so that I can honor this incredible trip that I was able to take. So thank you so very much for humoring me and listening to me talk about my trip. I really appreciate it. And that is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like the video, please comment down below, and check out my Etsy page, which is also linked. And please follow me at Mudpuppy Stitchery on Instagram to keep an eye on what I'm doing in between videos. So I appreciate you so very much, and I hope to see you in a couple weeks. So take care, do some bird watching, and stitch all of the things. Bye!